All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Happy Wednesday. It's supposed to be a really warm and nice day today. So hopefully we all enjoy that. I had a total anxiety dream last night about this meeting that I wanted to share with you guys because it was actually pretty funny. I hate it when people talk about dreams and about the time, but I had this absolute anxiety dream that I was still at home and it was like 9:20 in the morning and I hadn't started the meeting. And I was like, oh my God, I've got the Zoom. And then like there were 150 people in the waiting room waiting to come into the Zoom, which is outrageous. We've never had that many people in a Zoom with the principal meeting, but then half of you were actually also in my house. So I was running the meeting in person in my house and also on the computer. And it was funny because I don't know if you guys ever have anxiety dreams. Like when I was in college, you had the dream that you hadn't gone to the class all semester, and then you had to go take the final. And then even when I was teaching, it was like the same type of dream that like I hadn't been, like there was a class that I had but I never went to it and I never taught the class and it was the end of the semester. And so this was like the new version of the anxiety dream. So I'm not stressed about this meeting though, but there is other stuff that's stressing me out right now. Speaking of anxiety, we did a school-wide lesson on anxiety yesterday. The students, hopefully the students found, the feedback we've gotten so far from the students has been very positive. In my newsletter this weekend, I'm going to include, because we do have a video of the school-wide lesson, I'm going to include that for you guys in my newsletter this weekend. So if you wanted to see what the students saw, if you guys come to these meetings, and you've probably heard when we talk about anxiety. So none of the information I'm thinking, if you've been coming to these and listening to the Zoom with the principal, then the information won't be new because it's all stuff we've covered with parents before, but this was specifically geared towards the students. So I think it was, they did a really good job with the presentation. So I think you will enjoy that. But our topic today is about aging and this point in our life that, we're getting older. And so my hope is this can be a little bit of some group therapy and we can help each other and how we're dealing with getting older. We did this topic a couple of years ago for the first time because it happened to fall on my birthday. My birthday is Saturday. So it seemed timely. Rupert and I was asking Rupert, I'm like, are you getting ready to talk about getting old tomorrow? And my secretary was like, why are you going to talk about that right before your birthday? That's awful. And I'm like, no, that's the point. that's on purpose. So I was doing some reading last night and yesterday afternoon about this topic and just, seeing what was out there. And I came across this interesting article. So I'm turning 49 on Saturday. So I am solidly in the Gen X generation. And I don't know about you. I think, a lot of our parents are the same age as me. But some are a little bit younger, some a little bit older, but so some of you might be more millennial. But I feel like a lot of our parents are in that Gen X generation. And this article I came across it was really interesting because it was calling us like, right now we're the sandwich generation, that we are like all struggling with dealing with aging parents, but then also raising our kids. And I was like, oh, that describes my life so much right now. Where I'm constantly having to, to help my parents with everything. And, and I've talked about this a lot in the past year with severe health stuff that my mom has been going through, and she's better, but still, needs a lot of support. My parents don't drive anymore. So we have to, do all of the errands for my parents. My husband takes my dad to the grocery store every weekend. So there's just a lot of stuff that we have to do. And then we still have our own kids, where our kids are still in school. And so dealing with that, I had a 504 meeting for my son. Literally, like I got out of that meeting and opened this meeting, like one after another. Like I just got out of that meeting. And so, I feel like I'm not alone in that and having to balance all of this. And it's really it's really tiring. And so I would love to open this up to parents, put in the chat, or if you want to take yourself off mute and share just like stuff that you struggle with right now, this time that, that we're at this age, and like what we have to struggle with in life and how hard it is. And then what we're doing to kind of ease that. Like I said, like with my anxiety dream, I was super stressed about my son and his homework and how he's doing in school. I ate a lot of cake last night. That's how I dealt with it. So I had a lot of stress eating happening in my life last night, which is not obviously the best way to deal with things. But Rupert, how is your stress level? How are you dealing with all this? You got the gray in your beard. How you doing?
Well, I did myself no favors. I have a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 2-year-old next week, and a 6-month-old.
I think I can't even imagine. Wow.
So for me, it's work and then babies. And then even it's like, when do I sleep? So I have a lot of like, my arms hurt, my back hurts, internals are not always working properly. So and I don't even know if it's stress related. Am I getting older? Is it a combination of both? 6 years ago, I had no gray hair. 6 years, and I have 80% of my face is gray. Um, yeah. But before my two younger ones, was I feeling a lot more youthful? Oh, of course. So I think it's partially too many kids right now, and yeah, a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I honestly, I know, like people that are having small children right now, I'm like, oh, I can't even imagine. That just seems like a lot. And yeah, but like even my son is about to start high school, and that's a lot, like that stress. I feel like I didn't have to stress as much about high school with my daughter. But I am concerned about my son and how he's going to do in high school. And so that is hard, but we're not supposed to be talking about our kids right now. We're supposed to be talking about us. So one thing that I started doing like a year ago, that just I've found helpful for my getting old body, that Rupert, this is, I can, I do a 10-minute stretch before I go to bed every night. And it really, like the aches and pains of like when I get up and like just like it really has helped. So I do recommend doing the nightly stretch. Just in getting older. One thing that Virginia says she would prefer a baby over a teen right now. You know what? I can see that too. Yeah. Babies are a lot of work, and you got to change all those diapers and everything. But yeah, they're awfully snuggly and cute, and teenagers aren't.
And they don't talk back quite the same.
Right.
Or just argue with you.
Right.
Or
But
just
remember, you've
ignore
got both. You got a baby and a teen. So
Yeah, and one will be in he'll go into the 9th grade next year. And he's the one I most worry about. Actually, my oldest is probably my biggest headache. The babies, I guess, have a built-in excuse, but it's like the topic. I'm breaking down at a time where am needed more physically. right? To hold the babies, to do everything. And uh and your babies always think they're your babies, even though they're 15.
Yeah.
They still consider themselves. My oldest always says, I wish I was an only child, you know, like while I'm holding one of his siblings. So it's one of those things where physically, like I told my wife's in way better shape than I am. And that is like, you know, she had all these kids and like lost the weight a week later. The two kids that she's had, I put on weight like because I eat as much, and I it's harder to lose weight as you get older as well. Um, so yeah,
That should motivate you,
it's a
Rupert.
little
You got this.
it's like disheartening emotionally, physically, because when you see your partner bounce back so quick, and you're like, and she's the one that got big. Everyone was like, "Oh, you got so big," and it's like they didn't notice that I got big too, and it's like, yeah, it's everything's a little harder. I don't have no problems waking up because obviously I have to use the restroom, so that's like, you know, like it's just like when do I sleep? How long do I sleep? Most nights I'm asleep on the couch with a baby in my arms, and I get woken up. And I
Yeah.
don't know when I fell asleep. I don't know what I was watching last. I don't know if I put the baby to sleep. Did we fall asleep together? I don't know. I'm getting old.
VG says the funny thing is everyone at home is getting older, so the conversation at the dinner table is which body part hurts today. Yeah, for
Mm.
sure. Um, yeah, because this is just rough. And I don't know how many of you have aging parents, but like just my mom and her mobility issues has really like stressed to me the importance of like now when we're at this age and we're like in our 40s and like I'm going to be 50 soon, that um the importance of weightlifting. Like I lift weights 4 to 5 times a week, and like having that like strong muscle, so that you have muscles as you get older. um there is a podcast I listened to. I was actually listening to it on my way to work this morning. It's called Hit Play Not Pause. It's about the podcast is geared towards women athletes. The women that they interview are way more athletic than I am. They're like professional athletes, but it's inspiring. But they're also like going through menopause and like so how they deal with like changes in their life and like keep up with their fitness and everything. And just really stressing the importance of exercise, but like also like lifting weights so that your body doesn't break down as you get older. BG also says, I apologize to my husband ever so often as he's patiently dealing with a teenager, menopausal partner, and memory losing parents. Seriously. Yes, absolutely. I'm glad I'm not alone. My husband is a saint for dealing with all of this because my parents live around the block from us. And so he is like right there in the thick of it and like helping out my parents. Like he's the one that's taken my dad to the grocery store, and my dad is almost 90 and he is the epitome of the cranky old man who cannot deal with anything in the grocery store. And just gets like super frustrated. And my husband has got the patience of a saint and just deals with all of that. So yeah, I'm right there with you. And I don't know like what would make things easier. One thing that's made things easier for me, Rupert, we talk about like not getting enough sleep and falling asleep on the couch, is I have like really like, especially this year, have prioritized sleep, and that I go to bed if I'm still awake at 9:30, like things are bad, like that's rough. Like I really am like, no, I'm going to bed now. It's time for me to go to bed because I need the sleep. Because yeah, otherwise I'm a wreck. So I don't know what, Rupert, go to bed earlier.
It's not my option. I
Yeah,
think,
well,
yeah,
'cause you've got the baby, so that's, yeah,
yeah.
that's rough.
My wife goes to sleep early,
Good,
but
good.
yeah. So I'm more supportive in like the sense that where I don't mind doing everything, and I think it's at a detriment to myself. But then I don't, you know, I'd rather have I'd rather
Yeah,
have her get rest than me. If that
yeah.
makes sense.
Virginia, your hands up.
Yes, so listening to Rupert, I think that motivates me, and I try to encourage my husband of the same thing because he is older. He's 15 years older than me. And a lot of times I'll tell him, I know you're checked out because you're tired, because you're older, but just be there because that's what the kids are just going to see. So I know for Rupert, your older ones are going to be like, I remember those days my dad used to fall asleep with the baby in his arms on the couch. Like that's what is going to be in their mind when they become adults, when they become parents, and remember what their dad did. And I think that like is for me what I always try to focus on, and just kind of just keeps me going even though I'm tired as heck. I'm like, this is what keeps me going, is how my kids are going to see me and the example that I'm setting. So keep doing you, Rupert. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. I'm reading in the thing too. I also have a puppy. So I have a 1-year-old Frenchie, and I don't know if you're familiar with the breed, but they think they're another kid, and they're one of the most stubborn, smart breeds at the same time. So they know exactly what you're trying to do, and they're like, yeah. So at any given time, I have 3 under 2. So yeah, and
Yeah,
I'll sit there with all 3 in my arms, the dog sitting at my feet, and yeah,
do love my dog and my
yeah.
cats. So yeah. SB says, I recently made the change to my sleep times for the first time. I'm sleeping before my daughter or wrapping up all the cleaning. I mean, 9:30 p.m. is a hard stop. Feels good to get up at 5:30 a.m. Need to get doing the weights now. Yeah. Apparently Costco has this really great weight set that's got, different levels, of hand weights. So check that out at Costco. Yeah. So yeah, I think sleep is so important. And I feel like I I'm like with my kids, like, hey, you guys are on your own now for sleep. Like you got to figure that out. I'll tell you go to bed, but like I'm not gonna stay up to make sure that happens because um I need to go sleep. Golden Doodle is my best friend. All my secrets are safe with him for sure. Dogs are the best secret keepers. Um yeah, I think that I want to actually talk a little bit. I find, and this is me, because I used to teach social studies, I was a history major. I find generational change and different and like the traits of generations, I find that fascinating. This is just a little bit of a hobby of mine. I I like, when you talk about baby boomers and then, their traits and Gen X and their traits and millennials, and then now the kids that we have in high school now, which are Gen Z. I find that fascinating. And so I was reading another article yesterday where it talked about, that Gen X and older millennials that are pretty much Gen X, we are the parents of Gen Z. And that the baby boomers were the parents of millennials. And that the baby boomers wanted to make life easier for their kids. That was like their parenting philosophy, was to make life easier for their kids and have for their kids to have an easier life than they had. And that's where you start seeing a lot of helicopter parenting and things like that. And, there's a lot of theories out there that's why millennials, sorry if you're a millennial, that millennials tend to be a much more entitled generation. And that Gen X, we haven't raised our kids that way, that we've raised our kids to like deal with life. And I think it made me think like a lot of what we talk about in these Wednesday morning meetings and like how to raise our kids is, and I hope I'm like, spreading the message of like, let's not make life easier for our kids. We want them to be able to cope and deal with reality. I want to read you guys this quote from this article. I liked it. Boomers really wanted it to be easier for their children, and they succeeded, said Dorsey, the Gen Z consultant. That's somebody they interviewed for this article. When we interview Gen X, they tell us they don't want our kids to end up like entitled millennials. And I think that like, at least for me, that's so true. I don't want my kids to be entitled. I mean, I don't want them to suffer, but I want them to know that life's hard. That's why, I had us all read that book, The Gift of Failure, that I think that, we need to teach our kids that life's rough. And I think that not life's rough, but like, it can be hard, and we have to deal with that. And I think that I look at people our age, and we just, we're doing it. Like we are, making sure we get the sleep. We're making sure that we're taking care of ourselves because we're taking care of our kids, and we're taking care of our parents, and we're working, and we're doing all the stuff, and we're just getting it done. And then we're telling all our secrets to our dog. Like our dog is hearing it, all of our woes and suffering. But I don't know, if you guys have thoughts on that. And because I know a lot of you come from immigrant backgrounds. And so I'm wondering if that is different, if that like throws in another layer, the generational, and how people were raised. So, this is interesting. This last weekend, I had gone to a silent retreat where we all worked as a group to meditate. We had to hand over our phones. I did have a little bit of withdrawal symptoms. However, once I gave my phone, it was almost life-changing. I have to kept up with not checking my phone after work. Mostly I watch YouTube a lot, but it is worth trying to limit phone use to only taking calls and texts, nothing else. I have so much more time. That is, I love that. And it's really fascinating because I find myself, like, I think back yesterday, because I didn't have a particularly rough day. Like for my last night, I was so stressed last night. I was like eating all the cake and like so stressed, but it wasn't as a result of my work day. Because like yesterday it was like a typical like day at school. Like there was nothing unusual that happened, nothing particularly hard. But I did get home, and like on my drive home, I got a bunch of emails and like tasks that I needed to get done and stuff that, like, oh, this is, an emergency. And like, and so there was like kind of this stacked up. And then my son didn't do any work at school. And so he had all this homework because he hadn't gotten anything done. And then my husband got home like late, and I was just like, oh, and then my husband's like telling the dog to like sit, and like he was upstairs and he was like trying to get the dog to sit, and he like said the word sit about 30 times in like 30 seconds. It was like sit, 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 and I'm like, stop saying sit. I like yelled at him, like, stop saying sit, because I was just like, oh my God, I've had it. And so the idea of going to a silent retreat, that sounds so amazing right now. I need that in my life. And the handing over the phone, because honestly, I think about where I was going with this. Like when I got home, if I hadn't immediately looked at my phone, would I have been as stressed out? I think probably not. And so that's one thing that I have to really like be careful about, is like putting my phone away and not looking at it. And I do a lot of the same things where, you're watching like the videos and stuff like that, and you can get totally sucked into that. And that can be, mindless and entertaining, but then you do get the text message, or you do check your email. And so there's all of that stuff too. And I like, sometimes I feel like I need to just like lock my phone in a box that I like, and like give somebody else the key so I can't get to it. I deleted social media apps because they were getting addicting. Yeah, I've done that too, where I have, I will like do that for like a week, where I'll delete social media, and then I'll also take my email off of my phone. A lot of times, like if I've been like particularly stressed at work and then we have a school break, I oftentimes will delete email off my phone so that I can't look at it. And so that I can have a true break. And because it's really hard, but then the social media, especially now, like, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like I'll be on Twitter and just like the news of the world and like how awful things are. And that really stresses me out. And so I just like, I'm like, I just don't need all of this other stuff on top of like the normal stresses I have in my life. And so really like, that's like a self-care, and thank you for reminding me about this, because that I think that's something that I need to probably do right now, because yeah, it's too much right now. This is the end of the school year is always the most stressful time. Like there's so much stuff going on. So this is, yeah, the deleting social media from my phone might be the answer right now. So thank you for that. Rupert, do you have a lot of social media on your phone? Does it stress you out?
I have 0 social media accounts,
No, really.
and it's awesome. I felt the reason why I stopped social media is because people would know stuff about me that I haven't seen in years. So
Yeah.
it made, when I saw people, there was no organic conversations. It was more like them asking me about stuff they seen, and it was, I don't know, I felt kind of, I didn't like the window into my life like that.
You know,
So,
that's really interesting. So I just recently, my son went over his spring break. He's in the 8th grade. So he went on the 8th grade trip to Washington, DC and New York. And so I was at the airport picking him up. And this woman comes up to me and she's like, "Hey, Jenny." And it took me a second. And I was like, "Oh, Carol, like this is somebody I went to high school with. I literally have not seen since high school graduation, but we do follow each other on Facebook." And so she knew stuff about my life that it was weird. And like, so like, it was just like weird that we kind of like knew stuff about each other, but I haven't seen this person in 30 years. And so, but you're that's like a really interesting, like, yeah.
I also only have one, like a half a page of apps. I maybe have like 10 apps on my phone, and it's like my bank, shoes. Like I do have stuff that I like, but like I don't have pages and pages of apps or games on my phone. It hardly rings. It hardly, like, it's only my wife. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. SB says, "I have deleted social media and Netflix from my phone. The minute I got stressed, it came back to reinstalling and mindless distraction was needed. I decided to go back in time and use it for how it was meant to be, calls and texts. Let's see how long I can keep up, but the intent is in the right place." It's like I heard somebody was talking the other day that like they should bring back the Razor phone. Remember when like, when our kids were born, like we had a phone, but like the only thing you could really do on it was make calls and you could text like that. It was a communication device. It wasn't a mini computer. Just Amazon account. I had those shipments have to stop. I think an Amazon box will come to our house and my husband will be like, "What'd you order?" I'm like, "I don't know." We'll see. It's a surprise every time. I don't remember. So, and Virginia says, "I'm the total opposite with social media." Virginia, does that mean you're on social media a lot or you like aren't on social media at all?
So I'm not on social media all the time, but when I need an outlet from my reality, I go onto social media, usually TikTok,
Yeah.
to see, other creators and it just kind of gives me the distraction I need to calm myself down from my reality. And then even though, yeah, sometimes I'm like, "Oh shoot, I've been looking at it for an hour." It was supposed to be a few minutes, but then at least I get back to my life with like kind of like a reset.
It is. I mean, there is a benefit because there is like that like distraction element, especially with like TikTok. and Instagram. I don't have TikTok. I'm too old for TikTok, but I have Instagram. And so I watch TikTok videos on Instagram. And I saw something about Gen X and like, that's how we do it. And so I'm totally guilty of that. And I do very much enjoy them. I love me a good funny cat video. That is just, that can be the highlight of my day. I did go down a rabbit hole yesterday and I did look at some TikTok videos, because I was looking, you know, when I was doing my like Gen X and like aging, you know, to talk about today, I did go down this rabbit hole of TikTok videos about how Gen X isn't aging and why that is. And I saw this really funny one and it was, I wanted to show it to you guys, but she swore a lot and I thought maybe that wouldn't be appropriate. But she was talking about how she's in her late 40s and she was showing pictures of women from like the 70s and like she's like, look, these women are like 48 years old, and they look like, in today's standards, they look like they're 60. And she's like, what is the difference? And she's like, is it just because of the way they like did like rolled you know, because they, you know, with the hair rollers and stuff like that and the way they styled their hair? And she's like, I'm gonna see if this is what it is. And so she does her hair and that same with the like tight hair roller style, and it aged her 20 years. It was hilarious. So go look for that video, because it was, honestly, I laughed really hard about it, but she does swear a lot, so just warning you. So I feel like we're just like chatting, which this is good. Hopefully this is entertaining for you guys. So I don't know where and how to wrap this up. I guess, like, you know, hey, we're going to age. I think that's, aging has been something that bothers me, and it doesn't bother me. I've never been somebody that ever like doesn't like, oh, I'm not going to tell people my age. I've always been very upfront about how old I am. I don't, you know, like people, especially women sometimes, where they don't want to have birthdays and like they don't want to get older. That's never been me. I don't care. I definitely, I went to go get my hair cut and the other over spring break, and she was like, oh, and she like took one look at my hair and she's like, I didn't schedule you for a color. And I'm like, oh, it's fine. I mean, my gray hair is like coming in like you would not believe. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I'll probably get it colored over the summer, but I'm like, it's fine. I don't know. It's just, I've got other things to worry about. My birthday's on Saturday. And so I have not celebrated it yet. I am planning on, it's nice having a birthday on a Saturday because I don't have to worry about coming to work. Some years I'm like, no, I'm not going to work on my birthday. And I'll just take it off. But the problem with having a birthday at the end of April is, like I said, it's a very busy time of year. And so I can't always just be like, no, I'm going to take the day off on my birthday. So this Saturday, I'm actually, it's kind of dumb, but I'm probably going to get up early. You know, with my Peloton obsession, I'm hoping to get a birthday shout out on Peloton. So probably gonna do an early morning class with one of my favorite instructors. So I will do that. I'm going to go out to dinner with my family, an early dinner. And then we've got some friends coming over that evening to have some cake and drink some wine, which hopefully will just be fun and relaxing and not stressful. That's what I just want to be able to laugh with my friends and family. That's really the only thing I care about right now. Vici says, I embrace my age and body, and hopefully that's a positive influence on my daughter. Yes, I love that. I think that's a really great message, that, you know, embracing, you know, how we age and being okay with that. But then also, I think being okay with not following the old rules about how we're supposed to age. And what I mean by that, somebody said something to me recently, that, and it was somebody, so I'm gonna put this out in the universe. I have hair extensions, so that's how my hair is so long. I've never been able to grow long hair. And so I have hair extensions. And so I have another friend who also has hair extensions. And she was saying to me, she's like, I feel like I'm like, should I still have long hair? I feel like I'm getting too old to have long hair. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, do it because you like it. Like, have your hair the way you like because you like it. I feel like there, used to always be these rules of like, oh, when you get old, you start having short hair or you start, dressing a certain way. I don't think we should do that. I think that, we should just keep being and doing what makes us happy. And dress and style our hair and like our bodies because we like them. And I think that that's a really important message for our daughters and our sons, that, do it because we like it. We feel comfortable. And that's what we want to do, and not because that's what society thinks that we should be doing. And I think that that's, I think that's a really powerful thing. So I don't know. I mean, some things I'm like getting into age, like I went to prom the other night and I did wear my Converse sneakers with my dress because I'm getting too old for high heels. Though we have honor night tonight and I do have, I'll show you guys. Well, I'm wearing my flip-flops right now for most of the day, but I do have my heels for tonight. We'll see how I do on them. I think that my feet are going to hurt. We'll see. I think it'll be okay. It'll just be for an hour. But I figured I'd dress up for honor night a little bit more. Okay, so I am going to actually, before I let you guys go for the day, what are we talking about next week? I think we are talking about senioritis. Yes. So next week, this is for all of the parents of seniors, and everybody's invited, even if you're not a parent of a senior, so you know what to anticipate. But we're going to talk about, because we're getting into May. Well, next week we will be in May. And this is the time of year where senioritis gets really bad, where the seniors don't want to do anything. And they think they're too cool for school. And you are, as parents, may be like, oh my God, are you actually going to graduate? You're driving me crazy. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're also going to be talking about the empty nest syndrome. So it's the senioritis versus the empty nest, where seniors are driving you crazy because they're on the verge of adulthood and they're on the verge of graduating from high school, but then you're really going to miss them because they're moving out. And so how do you deal with those dueling emotions of this point? Because your high school journey as a parent, at least for that one kid, is about to end. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to throw in some, because I've had a couple of years now of having an adult child. So we'll talk a little bit about, how things change when they're in college and your relationship with your child as they're older. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So that's what our topic is next week. In the meantime, I hope you guys all, look in the mirror today, be okay with those wrinkles, be okay with the gray hair, with the back pain, going to the bathroom a couple extra times. It's part of life, but get to bed earlier, get that sleep, and do start lifting weights. That's my advice to you. Everybody start lifting weights. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful, enjoy the sunshine today. It's going to be beautiful. So enjoy it. Right. Thank you.